India and Canada have engaged in tit-for-tat diplomatic expulsions as part of an escalating row over the killing of a Sikh separatist leader on Canadian soil.
Last number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
The expulsions followed claims by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that there are credible allegations linking the Indian government of Narendra Modi with the death of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjar, a prominent member of the Khalistan movement seeking to create an independent Sikh homeland in the Indian state of Punjab, was shot dead on June 18, 2023, outside a Sikh cultural centre in Surrey, British Columbia. Khalistan means the land of the pure, though in this context, the term Khalsa refers broadly to the religious community of Sikhs, and the term Khalistan implies that they should have their own nation. The likely location for this nation would be in Punjab state in northern India, where 18 million Sikhs live. An additional 8 million Sikhs live elsewhere in India and abroad, mainly in the UK, the US, and Canada. The idea for an independent land for Sikhs goes back to pre-partition India, when the concept of a separate land for Muslims in India was being considered. Some Sikhs at that time thought that if Muslims could have Pakistan, then there should also be a Sikhistan or Khalistan. This idea was rejected by the Indian government, and instead, the Sikhs became a part of the state of Punjab. At that time, the boundaries of Punjab were drawn in a way that the Sikhs were not in the majority. But the Sikhs persisted, in part because one of the central tenets of the faith is Meri Piri, the idea that religious and political leadership should be merged. In their 500-year history, Sikhs have had their own kingdom, have fought against Mughal rule, and constituted the backbone of the army under India's colonial and independent rule. In the 1960s, the idea of a separate homeland for Sikhs re-emerged and formed part of the demand for redrawing the boundaries of Punjab state so that Sikhs would be in the majority. The protests were successful, and the Indian government created Punjabi Suba, a state whose boundaries included speakers of the Punjabi language, used by most Sikhs. They now comprise 58% of the population of Punjab.
In 1983, the fight for Khalistan.
In the 1980s, murderous acts by some Sikh separatists led to the military's Golden Temple massacre and other attacks against the Sikh community.
So there are many individuals in Canada whose family members may have been attacked or kidnapped.
The notion of a Khalistan separate from India resurfaced in a dramatic manner in the large-scale militant uprising that erupted in Punjab in the 1980s. Many of those Sikhs who joined the militant movement did so because they wanted an independent Sikh nation and not just a Sikh majority Indian state. The Sikh uprising in the 1980s gave rise to several violent encounters between the Indian armed police and militant young Sikhs, many of whom still harbored a yearning for a separate state in Punjab. Thousands of lives were lost on both sides in these encounters. The conflict came to a head in 1984 when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi launched Operation Blue Star to liberate the Sikhs' Golden Temple from militants in the pilgrimage centre of Amritsar and capture or kill the figurehead of the Khalistan movement, Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. He was killed in the attack, and Sikhs around the world were incensed that their sacred place was violated by police action. Indira Gandhi was assassinated in retaliation by her Sikh bodyguards on 31st October 1984. In recent years, several firebrand Sikh activists in India have reasserted the idea of Khalistan, and the Indian government fears a return of the violence and militancy of the 1980s.
with many Sikhs fleeing the violence of the early 80s.
The government of Narendra Modi wants to nip the movement in the bud before it gets too large and extreme. After the Sikh uprising was crushed in the early 1990s, many Sikh activists fled India and went to Canada, where they were welcomed by a large Sikh community, many of whom had been sympathetic to the Khalistan idea. A sizable expatriate community of Sikhs has been growing in the country since the early 20th century, especially in British Columbia and Ontario. Sikhs have been attracted to Canada not only because of its economic opportunities, but also because of the freedom to develop their own ideas of Sikh community. Though support for Khalistan is illegal in India, in Canada, Sikh activists are able to speak freely and organize support for the cause. Though the roots of the Khalistan movement are in India, the Canadian movement in favor of it helps to cement the Sikh diaspora's identity and give the Canadian activists a sense of connection to the Indian homeland.
India has repeatedly accused Canada, home to the largest Sikh diaspora in the world, of sheltering extremists. Sikh militants were blamed for the Air India bombing in 1985, killing 329 people, the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history. India alleged Hardeep Singh Nijjar was linked to a 2007 bombing in Punjab, which he repeatedly denied. Before his death, Nijjar helped plan this unofficial Khalistan referendum, thousands of supporters lining up to vote.
Let us now look at a timeline of how the Khalistan movement has cast a shadow over India-Canada relations over the years. In 1982, Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, declined to extradite Talvinder Singh Parmar, accused of killing 2 police officers in Punjab. In 1984, in the aftermath of Operation Blue Star, which had been launched by the Indian Army to root out militants from the Golden Temple in June 1984, the Khalistan movement was bolstered among the diaspora. In 1985, Babbar Khalsa, which was a Khalistan separatist organization, orchestrated the bombing of Air India Kanishk flight in June 1985, which resulted in 331 civilian deaths. In 2015, Justin Trudeau's proximity to individuals sympathetic to Khalistan's cause strained bilateral relations between India and Canada. In 2017, the then Punjab Chief Minister, Captain Amrinder Singh, refused to meet Canadian Defence Minister Harjit Singh Sajjan, accusing him of associating with separatists. In 2018, India got aggravated when Jaspal Atwal, convicted of attempting to assassinate an Indian cabinet minister in 1986, was invited to dine with Trudeau during his visit to India. Trudeau got a slightly cold reception during his visit to India when he was received at the airport by Minister of State for Agriculture Gajendra Singh Shekhawat instead of PM Modi. In 2020, India accused Trudeau of inciting extremists when he expressed concerns about New Delhi's response to the farmers' protests and pledging support for their rights. In 2022, Trudeau's Liberal Party formed an alliance with the New Democratic Party, led by Jagmeet Singh, who openly endorsed the Khalistan referendum on Canadian soil. In 2023, during the recent G20 summit in New Delhi, PM Modi conveyed strong concerns about continuing anti-India activities of extremist elements in Canada. The diaspora community of Sikhs constitutes 2.1% of Canada's population, a higher percentage of the total population than in India. They make up a significant voting bloc in the country and carry political clout. In fact, there are more Sikhs in Canada's cabinet than in India's. Although Trudeau has assured the Indian government that any acts of violence will be punished, he has also reassured Canadians that he respects free speech and the rights of Sikhs to speak and organize support freely, as long as they do not violate Canadian laws. The Bharatiya Janata Party and India's Prime Minister Modi tend to support Hindu nationalism. Recently, The Modi government used Bharat rather than India when referring to the country while hosting the G20 summit, attended by President Joe Biden among other world dignitaries. Bharat is the preference of Hindu nationalists. This privileging, along with an increase in hate crimes, has led to an environment of fear and distrust among minorities, including Sikhs and Muslims in India. Considering the high percentage of Sikhs in Canada's population, Trudeau understandably wants to assert the rights of Sikhs and show disapproval of the drift towards Hindu nationalism in India. And this isn't the only time that Trudeau and Modi have clashed over the issue. In 2018, Trudeau was condemned in India for his friendship with Jaspal Singh Atwal, a Khalistani supporter in Canada who was convicted of attempting to assassinate the Chief Minister of Punjab. Yet, both countries have reasons to try to move on from the current diplomatic issues. India and Canada have close trading ties and common strategic concerns with relationship to China. It is likely that, in time, both sides will find ways to cool down the tension that has resulted from this difficult incident. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, we request you to share it with family and friends and subscribe to our channel. This will help us create more content such as this. Thank you.